Hello and welcome back to the channel where we continue the now tradition of doing a super self-indulgent wrap-up of 2022. Some of the highs, some of the lows, both personally and creatively, and what you can expect going into 2023 on this channel. 2022 was a really strange year. You could easily divide it into two halves. Like the first half and the second half of 2022 could not have been more different. First off though, those TV shows and films that I said I worked on in last year's recap that I couldn't really talk about.
I've worked on 10 shows and 2 films. Can I say what any of those productions are? No.
Well, now I can talk about them. First up was This Is Going to Hurt for the BBC. This was actually my first job in the industry. I was a freelance production runner, literally just driving props in COVID tests that needed locations. Next was The Man Who Fell to Earth for Showtime. I was a production assistant on this for a short while, helping out with the art department, dress the set, lock off the set from some crew when we were filming, and actually manned one of the props during a scene. After that was The Essex Serpent for Apple TV. I was a supporting artist on this, which is just a fancy way of saying extra. Just worked on this for a couple of days, but the crew were really nice and the location was this really cool old operating theatre. You could spot me in a shot or two. Bad Sisters was the next production, also for Apple TV. This was one of the projects I worked on the most. I worked in 2 departments on this, as a floor runner in the assistant director's department. I also briefly worked in the COVID department. You could spot me in the credits of some episodes, and I actually have a brief cameo in the show as one of the main character's ex-boyfriends. After that came season 3 of Pennyworth. I worked on this for a short period as a floor runner, and it was really cool to see some of their big sets and the incredible reconstruction of 60s London. Then we have The Sun, which actually isn't out in the UK yet, but it is out in the US. I worked on this for a super short time, and it was really cool that The Father was one of my top 3 favourite films of last year, and then I got to work on Florian Zeller, the director's new film. And I was the stand-in for Mr. Hugh Jackman, which was potentially the biggest ego boost I've ever had, but then I was immediately humbled when I was replaced due to being 4 inches shorter than Hugh Jackman, and they needed someone taller. I still cry about that on a daily basis. And lastly, we have season 5 of The Crown. Similar to The Essex Serpent, I was an extra on this as this 90s waiter in this super swanky restaurant in London. You can spot the back of me in one shot too. And that's not even everything that I've worked on. There's still a bunch of stuff to come out in 2023, which I'm excited to update you guys about. And I had a really good time working on all those projects, met some really cool people, made some really good memories. So am I still working in the film and TV industry? No. Although I had a good time, I found that the long hours, the lack of job security, and the difficulties of a work-life balance, it just got a bit too much for me. The industry is definitely more of a lifestyle than a job, and if you're up for that, then more power to you. There is nothing wrong with wanting to go down that road. There were loads of people on the set that just loved that work ethic and just that atmosphere. But personally, it just wasn't for me. So I had this real struggle mentally of like, what do I do next? You know, I still wanted to work in something video related and something creative, just not in a way that would consume my whole life, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. And during this time of trying to transition career-wise, the gaps between set jobs was getting longer and longer. When I would get work, the pay wasn't really keeping up with the cost of living. Emma, my girlfriend, was on like a 3-month trip around Central America, and I wanted to have something in place career-wise for when she came back. That was loads of pressure I was just putting on myself kind of unnecessarily. Due to money running out, I had to limit the amount of times I could see friends. I was interviewing for jobs like 3 times a day whilst also trying to plan and make a new short film without knowing how I was going to fund it or even know when I was going to be able to find the time to make it. And I just began spiraling and spiraling. Eventually, it got to the point where I was completely broke and waking up every day in anxious mess. I had to take job seekers allowance, unemployment money basically, and I was seeing a therapist. And I was in a complete rut, like mentally and creatively. But then things changed. After spending so much time looking for work in the film world, it never occurred to me that I've been working and making videos for YouTube and just making videos in my own time for like well over 10 years. Like, why don't I try and look for something in content creation? And it ended up resulting in something full-time. And now I'm putting out content, like educational, meaningful content, up to 5 days a week. On top of that, financially, I've now been able to spend more time with the people that are closest to me. I can go out and do things and not have to worry about the cost of doing them. And I no longer feel guilty. Like before, I was feeling guilty about spending money to do things that genuinely made me happy. Mentally, I could not be in a more different place now than I was earlier this year. And it really helped me figure out what my priorities are for next year going into 2023. So yeah, there was no film in 2022. I put out literally hours of content online though, so hopefully that makes up for it. I really did want to make that film. It still very much could happen, but with everything going on, there was just no time to really fit it in. There were just so much bigger priorities life-wise that took over. I am planning on another live action film that'll be out, well, I won't say when, but next year, that I'm very, very excited by. It will be shorter. It's not going to be the length of Resident or From Far Away, as my main priority now, honestly, is building the next chapter of my life with Emma and getting our own house and just trying to create a form of stability that excites me so much right now. And currently that is the priority. I'm not saying that film work will never be the top priority. At the moment it is number 2. As you can see, we've got new equipment here, and through making the content regularly, I'm definitely in a really good flow and groove, so I can just make stuff a lot quicker now. I've got lots of good plans for what I can bring to this channel. I'm definitely looking to post something more consistently, probably similar like this, probably something way more laid back where I'm just talking to you guys. So I hope that long-winded tangent was of some worth to you guys. It definitely felt cathartic getting it all out there. I really enjoy doing these wrap-ups. I hope you guys had a good 2022, and I hope that you're excited as well for what 2023 could bring. And I look forward to seeing you guys again very soon.